Hello everyone, Steven here from Radolescence, and welcome back to another fragrance review. This time we'll be taking a look at a fragrance from the company Viktor Rolf, and the fragrance is called Spicebomb. Here's the bottle. This fragrance was released in January of 2012, and the perfumer for this fragrance is Olivier Polge. Olivier Polge is the son of Jacques Polge, who is the in-house perfumer for Chanel, and Olivier Polge has done some other fragrances, and they include Only the Brave by Diesel, Invictus by Paco Rabanne, Uomo by Valentino, The One by Dolce & Gabbana, Dior Homme by Christian Dior, and Midnight in Paris by Van Cleef & Arpels. So he does not work exclusively with one brand, yet he branches out and he does his own thing. So this fragrance, of course, follows the success of the popular Flower Bomb, which was released back in 2005. And this is the second men's offering from the brand, with the first one being Antidote, which was released in 2006, which has been dubbed as one of the most complex scents out there. Unfortunately, it is now discontinued. Now, the classification for this fragrance is warm spicy, and I do want to mention that there are a couple other versions out there on the market. There is a Christmas edition, which was released recently, the only difference being that the Christmas edition comes in a copper-colored bottle. The note breakdown, however, is exactly the same, so you will get the same smell. There is a different version or a flanker of Spicebomb out there, and it's called Spicebomb Eau Fraiche, which was released just this year in 2014. That one has more of an emphasis on grapefruit and lavender. So the fragrance that I'm reviewing today is the original Spicebomb. Next up, we have the presentation. Please click the annotation in the upper left-hand corner for a detailed video on a real versus fake comparison of Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf. Keep in mind that this fragrance is now being counterfeited. Here you have the box. You have great detail here on the front where it reads Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf, these vertical lines, if you will. On the very bottom here in the upper right-hand corner is where you will find the serial number engraved into the box, etched into the box. And at the very top here you have the Viktor Rolf insignia, and that's pretty much it. Ingredients at the back, UPC code at the back. That's pretty much it as far as the box goes. Now here's the bottle. Here is Spicebomb and Flower Bomb side by side with each other. Of course, Spicebomb looks much more like a grenade, whereas Flower Bomb looks more like a bomb, I guess. You have the Viktor Rolf insignia here, or actually attached to the rim, whereas in the bottle, it's actually a clip that's very reminiscent of the Le Mot by Jean Paul Gaultier clips. So you release it, it activates the sprayer. You have this band here with the name of the fragrance and the brand, and it covers the entire perimeter of the bottle. Really great attention to detail. You have a serial number down here at the bottom on a sticker, which should coincide with the one found on the bottom of the box. And then the atomizer gives you a great distribution, one of the best that I have seen. And that has pretty much been the presentation for Spicebomb.
Hi everybody, Steven from the Fragrance Lair, and my opinions on Spicebomb is that it's a beautiful fragrance with cinnamon, tobacco, and some slight citrus in the background to really make it a little bit more fresher and a little bit more versatile. Now, an alternative to this would be Insurrections Dark, another beautiful fragrance with some amber thrown in. A gorgeous fragrance, and both of these are somewhat similar and are both kind of on the same range. This one right here is amber, while this one has a little bit more tobacco and leather. So, those are my opinions on Spicebomb.
My friend Ross says, Spicebomb is a nice strong scent that's like a toned down or refined version of 1 Million. I recently wore Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, and the dry down reminded me of this. So it's complex, in a good way. Not my favorite, but I love it. P.S. The bottle is awesome. Saeed says, I don't have the bottle because I could never convince myself of buying it. Many times I have sampled this, and this is not easy to wear for me. Just too heavy and synthetic. To my surprise, whoever I have asked, men and women, liked it. I think it's best suited for cold weather and going out. And lastly, Ricky says, this one really does nothing for me. Way too synthetic. Now, Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf is a designer fragrance, so of course it will contain synthetic notes. Do I feel like this is an overly synthetic fragrance? No, not at all. I would never consider this to be one of those TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Winners, bargain bin type of fragrances. Now, this fragrance is comprised mainly of two accords as far as the marketing goes. We have the fiery accord, which contains all of the spices, and then we also have the icy accord, which contains notes like bergamot and grapefruit, and I believe even the LMB resin, which of course are more brighter and effervescent. However, I don't find this fragrance to be too sparkling or effervescent. Despite the fact that the note breakdown says it has grapefruit and bergamot, I really don't get that from this fragrance because it's not evocative of aquatic fragrances or marine-like fragrances. Rather, I think that there is more of an emphasis in this fragrance on that fiery accord with all of the spices. As the name implies, Spice Bomb, this is figuratively a spice bomb. It contains a lot of spicy nuances and notes like cinnamon and saffron and chili, which on many websites is listed as paprika, but nevertheless, I think that the most dominant note in this fragrance, although it doesn't overshadow the other notes, is the note of cinnamon. Now, cinnamon is in essence a spice, but it also comes across smelling rather sweet. It doesn't smell powdery in any way, and that's because they use pink pepper as opposed to rose. I'll get into that a little bit later on. But cinnamon, or a type of cinnamon also known as cassia cinnamon, contains an aroma chemical by the name of coumarin. Now, coumarin is not as volatile as other ingredients are, so despite whether or not, cinnamon is listed as a top note or base note or mid note, I can tell you that the sweetness that is brought forth by the cinnamon actually does last for a very long time in this fragrance, very well into the progression and the dry down of the fragrance. I can smell it in the 6th and 7th and 8th hour in the development of Spice Bomb. So I think that the sweetness that is brought forth is what allows for the comparisons to be made between Spice Bomb and 1 Million. I don't think that this is as sweet as 1 Million, and a lot of people say that 1 Million almost carries with it juvenile or very immature quality. This is not a juvenile scent, even though I think it's very versatile in terms of how old one can be in order to wear this. I can definitely imagine a teenager wearing this, but again, it has a sophisticated quality brought forth by the leather and the tobacco. So in the opening, you have a medley of spices. You have cinnamon, you have saffron, you have chili, and what I do want to mention is that the spices in this fragrance don't come across overwhelming or overbearing, not to the point where they're going to make you sneeze or something like that. So if that was a concern of yours, I would like to assist you in dismissing it right away. So after the spices start to dissipate, they don't entirely go away, but they do kind of tone down themselves. You do find yourself working your way into the mid, which is where the elemi resin and the pink pepper start to come through. Elemi resin is extracted from a tree which is native to the Philippines, and they take the resin or the gum and they distill it to create the essence that is elemi oil. And elemi oil doesn't come across smelling resinous or anything like that. It's actually kind of fresh and spicy. Now, I know that this is really the dominant note in the flanker version of this fragrance, which is Spice Bomb Eau Fraiche. So when you look at that note breakdown, they still have the elemi in there, they have grapefruit in there, a more concentrated grapefruit, and they also have lavender. Now, pink pepper is a very important role in this fragrance because even though cinnamon is the note that's usually most talked about as far as this fragrance is concerned, I think the pink pepper also plays a very dominant role. Pink pepper, in the strictest sense of the word, is a pepper berry, but it doesn't have a spicy odor profile to it. It actually smells rather rosy, which is why many perfumers prefer using it because it's more versatile in men's fragrances, and it doesn't come across as floral, powdery, or as retro as rose does, and it's also not as expensive. So they prefer using that to the real rose counterpart. So in this fragrance, not only does it provide a rosy smell, but it also provides a waxy smell. I don't mean waxy in terms of like a honey beeswax animalic type of a way, but more of like a candle wax type of a way, which is a little unusual, but when you smell it, if you do agree with me, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I think that this rosy quality really brings forth an aura of sensuality. So now you have this spicy dynamism in the opening, which comes across rather charismatic, adventurous, and daring, and prolific, and then you also have this aura of sensuality in the mid, and then once all of those notes start to tone down, you really have the nuances of tobacco and leather which start to come through. Now, this fragrance does not smell like a cowboy smoking a cigarette, but despite that, I think you still do get a little bit of that tobacco nuance, a little bit of that leather, which really bring forth an aura of sophistication and maturity, all the while not making this fragrance smell dated. It's still very contemporary. I think that overall, this is a very harmonious balance of notes. This is a very intriguing blend of notes, which is why you really will not come across any other fragrance on the market having released prior to this fragrance that smells quite the way that Spice Bomb does. And it's so inspiring in a sense that I believe many companies are using reverse engineering to create their own version or rendition of this fragrance, case in point being Insurrection Dark by Rayanne Tradition, which is a very inexpensive alternative to Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf. Lastly, the compliment rating or compliment factor on this fragrance is very high. I have received many compliments wearing this fragrance. Last up, we have the rating. First up, we have uniqueness and overall smell, and I ended up giving Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf a 10 out of 10. I think that this is an amazing smell. It's incredibly unique. It's very versatile. I can see it being both a men's and a women's scent. Fixatives were used very successfully, hence the reason why the performance of this fragrance is above average. This doesn't smell like any other fragrance out there in Macy's or Sephora or other department stores, and prior to this fragrance, no other fragrance has been released that smells quite the way that this one does. I think it's a great fragrance. Compliment factor is very high. You will get a lot of positive attention wearing this fragrance. I have never received a negative comment while wearing this fragrance. I would have to give it a 10 out of 10. This is one of my favorite scents ever. Next up, we have longevity. I give this fragrance a 9 out of 10. Longevity on this fragrance is 8 to 10 hours, which is still above average considering that this is an eau de toilette concentration, so I ended up giving it a 9. Projection on this fragrance is about an 8. Doesn't project as well as it lasts, but projection is still above average considering the concentration. Next up, we have versatility. I ended up giving this fragrance an 8 out of 10. Now, I do think that this could be a unisex scent. I think that this is more for upscale events. This is definitely a playful or night out scent. I definitely wouldn't wear this casually because this is a high-end designer, so it will run you a little bit more expensive than your other designer fragrances would. Definitely over $100 for the bigger size, so just be mindful of that. I think that in terms of age range, this would work better for a younger crowd, but I think that maybe teenager up to 35 to 40 is the more appropriate age range for this fragrance, but again, that's just a recommendation. In terms of season, because of the very good performance, I think that this could work well all year round, but I definitely see myself wearing this more often in the fall and winter. So last up, we have the presentation. Of course, some people might say it's cheesy, some people might say it looks pretty good. I actually love the way that it looks. I think that the design is very intricate. I love the combination of the box and the bottle and the clip and the atomizer. I think it looks great. I ended up giving it a 9 out of 10 for presentation. Overall, I would have to give this fragrance a rating of a 9 out of 10. If you were to ask me, I would probably give this a 10 out of 10 because this is one of my all-time favorite scents. I can see this one going down in the books as a classic. This is a frame of reference that I think people will use decades from now, but if we were to evaluate the performance and the versatility and the presentation and factor all of those together, I would really have to give this a fair rating of a 9 out of 10. So thank you for watching. That was my review of Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf. If you own or have tried this scent, please let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to rate and subscribe for future videos and frequent giveaways. Again, thank you so much for watching. This has been Steven with another fragrance review from Adolescence. See you soon.